All right, folks, so we are back. Today is Sunday, the day after UFC 319. My hair is so messy right now, and I am still somewhat asleep, but we have to talk about the card because it was one of the most hyped UFC events I can remember, maybe since UFC 300. And for the most part, it delivered. As a card, it was a pretty fantastic one with big time, major performances. We had 2 spinning elbow knockouts. There's only been 10 in UFC history. We had 2 on the same night. That's the type of entertainment, that's the type of fighting we were in for until we got to the main event. And that obviously is the big point of this video, is to talk about what happened when Khamzat Chimaev absolutely, unequivocally controlled and dominated DDP, Dricus Du Plessis, but did it in a way that left a sour taste in some fans' mouth. This discussion always comes up, but we're gonna talk about it. So, UFC 319, the breakdown, let's go. All right, so a couple of things on the undercard that I noticed. I'm not going to talk about every single fight because I don't think every single fight is talk about worthy. But we'll start with Alexander Hernandez, Chase Hooper. This was a fight Chase Hooper was favored in. Chase has been winning fights, has been fighting veterans and winning fights, and he's been gradually taking steps up, but this one was, a fight he was favored in. And Alexander Hernandez had been around at the lightweight division for a while. Years ago had beaten, I don't know who he beat, but he beat somebody notable and called out Cowboy, and then Cowboy put it on him. Point is, Alexander Hernandez had a bit of an up and down career, and Chase Hooper was heavily favored in this fight, but Hernandez, fair play to him, came out, looked for a shot he wanted to land. I think Chase got a little bit too comfortable with his stand-up, a little bit too comfortable and confident as a grappling fighter. He's not a great stand-up fighter, never has been, but he's gotten better, and he's been able to utilize some of his kicks, some of his stand-up to get more comfortable, to get himself into good grappling positions. The first round was all striking, and I think he fell in love with it. I think he got a little complacent, and I think he walked into boxing range when he has a 74-inch reach at lightweight, which is almost a cheat code, and he got tagged with a big counter right hand, a shot that knocked him down with about 5 seconds left in the round, and Hernandez followed up with some nasty ground and pound, and they stopped it. I think it was a good stoppage. I'm not gonna sit here and act like Chase Hooper was knocked out flat cold. He got up and got to his feet, but I just don't think he was stopping that barrage of punishment as it continued. Tough loss for Chase Hooper, big win for Alexander Hernandez. Good way to start the card off. You saw some action, you saw intensity, and you saw a big time finish for Hernandez. Gerald Meerschaert and Mikhail Oleksiejczuk, who, by the way, is a part of Fighting Nerds, and I know he's been there for a couple of fights now, but that still doesn't seem real. A mostly Brazilian fight crew that has a Polish man in it as well. I don't know. It's a very odd deal, but he goes in and absolutely smashes Gerald Meerschaert. His left hand is like a stone. When he hits people with it, they go down, and that's what happened. He put a left hand to the body on Meerschaert in the clinch, came over the top with a left hand right after it, double left hand, bah, boom, and Meerschaert ate the canvas. Big time win for Mikhail, and I'm not exactly sure what they do with him next. I want to say he said he wanted to fight Marvin Vettori, and I'm down with that. I would love that. Marvin Vettori's got a chin on him. It seems like it's never been broken, and he even looked good in his last fight. I know he lost, but still, he looked pretty decent. I say run that. Give me Mikhail Oleksiejczuk and Marvin Vettori, and I'm set with that. That's a banger of a fight. Then we had Khamzat's training partner, Basinger Susurkayev, I think that's how you pronounce his last name, versus Eric Nolan. This is an interesting one. This is the main event of the prelim, and this was a fight that Susurkayev was 4 days removed from being on the Contender Series, winning his fight, and obviously his association with Khamzat is a big deal, but won his fight in fantastic fashion, front kick to the body, and told Dana he's ready to fight again. Dana puts him in the premier preliminary bout spot. That's the main event of the prelims, off of a win on the Contender Series. You have people like Edson Barboza, who fought for a world title on the undercard. You have a former champion in Jessica Andrade fighting before Susurkayev in the main event of the prelim. That's a big deal. That shows like the promotion looks at him in a certain way. And they had him in there with Eric Nolan. And I think this was Eric Nolan's UFC debut, but he was 8-3, apparently a former Marine, a guy that was looking to prove himself as well. These are two guys in a big time spot in their first fights in the UFC. And I'll tell you what, Eric Nolan came to scrap. He was not afraid of Sursurkayev. The whole "I'll kill you" and Khamzat saying that Sursurkayev was better than Khamzat was didn't faze Eric Nolan. He came out and was there to fight. He wasn't there to lay down. He wasn't there to quit. And it was an interesting first round. Sursurkayev hit him with some good shots and was hurting him with some things, especially the low kicks. But then Nolan started firing back, and Nolan had the better hands. It was pretty clear that his boxing was better than Sursurkayev's. He was tagging him to the body and upstairs, and Sursurkayev was kind of laughing and like, you know, you're not hurting me. That's good. You're fighting back. Yeah, bring it. And then at the end of the first round, Eric Nolan hits him with a nasty right hand, and the legs go from Sursurkayev. And Nolan follows up, and he's trying to swing and end the fight, and I thought he was going to, and the bell sounded, and Sursurkayev, honestly, I think got saved by the first round bell. Like, I think he probably gets stopped right there, if not for the bell, and Eric Nolan would have had a fantastic debut in the UFC. But credit to Sursurkayev, because this is what, if you are a great fighter, if you're gonna be a great fighter, what you have to be able to do is, even in moments where you've been hurt or something happened that wasn't supposed to, you're able to regain your composure and finish the fight, or regain your composure and get back on top. That message, by the way, is something I want you guys to hold on to, because we're gonna talk about it when it comes time for the co-main event of this card and how that went down. So Sursurkayev comes out in the second round and just starts eating up the leg of Eric Nolan. I mean, chewing that thing up, just heavy leg kick, heavy leg kick. One time, Nolan went down and like grabbed at his leg to be like, he must have torn something. I thought it was like he was like fibbing at first, you know, like a fake out, like, I'm gonna look at my leg, here comes the right hand, because he did that. He like grabbed at his leg and it threw right hand. But I think, you know, watching and hearing the commentary after the fight about how he was hobbling around on that leg, he might have torn something. ACL kind of lives on that outside of the knee. It could have been that. I don't know. Respect to Sursurkayev, because he gets the stoppage. He ends up, you know, taking down Eric Nolan and mounting him and submitting him. I think he was rear naked choke. But for the amount of the fight that was there and the amount of hype that was behind Sursurkayev, it was a pretty interesting fight. It was not one that was just easy walk in the park for him. So respect to Eric Nolan for getting in there on short notice. I don't know if it was weight class up or down for him. I can't remember. But regardless, pretty fantastic performance for both guys on such short notice. I'm excited to see what Sursurkayev does next. Anyway, we move on. Tim Elliott versus Kai Asakura. This was supposed to be a big-time fight for Kai Asakura, whose only other fight in the UFC was a world title fight in December of last year. He come over from Ryzen, big-time prospect, big-time name. A lot of people saying that he was the heir apparent to Pantoja. A lot of people saying he was the heir apparent to the 125-pound division. And this was one of those allow me to reintroduce myself moments, or allow me to remind y'all moments, not from Kai Asakura, not even from Alexandre Pantoja, but for Demetrius Johnson. This was a allow me to remind y'all moment, because Asakura, after losing to Pantoja pretty easily, gets into this fight with Tim Elliott. And you love Tim Elliott because he's always game. And he's fought all the toughest guys, and he hasn't won all the toughest fights, but he's fought in them. He's been there. But as a guy in Kai Asakura that had so much, again, that word of the day, hype coming over, this should have been him establishing himself as one of the top guys at 125 and building back to a world title. And Tim Elliott just said, no, that's not what it's gonna be. I'm 38 years old, but I'm still good enough and slick enough, and again, just game enough to go in there and get you. And Tim Elliott did. He won this fight after a good first round for both guys. I thought Asakura came out with good striking, but Tim Elliott, right at the end of the first round, caught a kick from Asakura, took him down, and showed on the ground he was a lot better, or showed he was a lot more comfortable. And in the second round, after that good first round from Asakura, but right at the end, giving up that takedown and not looking as comfortable off of his back, or not getting back to his feet, you saw him be a little bit more tentative. And Elliott started taking the fight over. Tim Elliott started walking him down, started doing all that weird shit, that fucking Dominic Cruz kind of feinting and throwing just appendages everywhere, and it ended up, you know, working. It ended up confusing Asakura a little bit, and then Tim Elliott started to land offense on the feet, and everything was coming together. And then there's a scramble, and Tim Elliott gets to a guillotine and locks this puppy up. Well, it was a one-arm guillotine for a while. He had one arm in and was posting with his left hand, or his right hand, I don't remember which side, but he's posting with one hand, one-arm guillotine, and then Asakura just, it was so tight that he couldn't get out. And then Tim eventually put the hands together, and a huge win. He was like a plus 290 underdog, but what a win. And you know, I know the kids online now, because almost knocked over my recording device. I know the kids online now are screaming fraud check and doing the whole, like, he was never as good as we thought. This is the UFC, man. This is the ultimate fighting championship where anything can happen. There are world champions that have losses on their resume that baffle you. And there are guys that are career gatekeeper, career middle of the ground guys that will pull a win that they should never have out of nowhere against a high level guy that should have beaten them. It's happened before, it'll happen again. But this was a fun one for Tim Elliott. As he won, he sat down in the cage, pulled his mouthpiece out and was like, I love this shit. And he does, and you can tell he does. So this was a good win for Tim Elliott. But then we move on to Michael Venom Page versus Jared Cannonier, and this fight was interesting. For the same reasons every Michael Venom Page fight is interesting. MVP versus Cannonier, man, MVP is just a world-class striker. He really is. We say world-class striker a lot, and I told you guys this in my video. Listen, I know the W.A.D.E curse ended up affecting a lot of things in this card, but one thing it didn't affect was MVP's ability to style on motherfuckers. That's what he does. He is just a beautiful striker. And he had Jared Cannonier in fits on the feet. I mean, he had him just so confused as to what was happening. And again, it's impossible to fight him at distance. It really is. If you're not kicking at his legs, and even when you kick at his legs, he wants to throw the right hand down the middle. Douglas Lima is the only guy that's ever stopped him. The only guy that's ever figured that puzzle out. He stands so bladed. The lead leg is really the only plan of attack, and he's so explosive, even now at 38. Now, granted, Jared 41, 43, whatever, but he's so explosive. He's very picky with his shot selection. He's in and out, and if you're not there with the same timing off the back foot that he has off the front foot, he's gonna hit you with something and be out of there before you even know where he came from. And that's what happened a lot in this fight. It wasn't a ton of, volume, and Michael Venom Page fights really aren't a ton of volume ever. And in this fight, he didn't really use any kicks or knees. It was mostly just his boxing, which I think was a targeted strategy because, the more risk you give up trying to land something crazy on Jared Cannonier, you may fall, get mounted, or potentially get finished from the ground and pound position, which actually he wasn't close to being finished, but kind of happened later in the fight. But on the feet, it was all MVP. It was the feints, it was the jab, it was the right hand to the body, and then the explosion, the blitz, the jab right hand as it come through, stepping on the outside, throwing Jared over his own weight. It was incredible to watch. He was just stunning him. There was one point where, again, he threw that jab right hand, stepped behind Jared, kind of shoved him over and tripped him as he blitzed him and hit him, and Jared just kind of fell back and was like, what in the world just happened? And then got back to his feet and tried to get back into it. But it's never gonna work when guys try to just corral him on the cage and chase him and don't throw and just feint and stand there in front of him. And it's very easy for me to say, right? I'm sitting on a bed, I'm not trying to fight MVP. But the point I keep seeing over and over with guys, and fair play to Ian Gary who actually got it done, but when you stand there, even Sharp Bullet, when you stand there and you try to cut the cage off and stand in front of him and then throw, instead of throwing to cut the cage off, throwing to get to where you want to get to, throwing to get to grappling position, MVP's just not gonna be there. He's not. He's gonna be able to use his feet, slide out, hit you with a counter shot. Or he's gonna walk you into that dead space, hit you with a counter shot, slide out. He's got such good timing. He's got such good control of when he's safe and when he's not. He's got like an 81-inch reach as well, which, just give the guy every freaking cheat code you can as a striker and make him a tall, lanky dude that keeps range. It's almost impossible. He's super comfortable. He's talking to you in there. He hits you with a big shot and points to you or does a little chicken dance or asks you if you're okay, or you kept telling Jared Cannonier, he's like, calm down now, calm down. So he's super fun to watch. He called for the winner of the next fight in his next fight, so we'll talk about that. But as far as what you do with him next, this was at 185. He could bounce between that and 170. He's a dangerous dude, man. Dangerous dude for any just pure strikers in the game. It's gonna be a rough night for you unless you have some ability to mix up the MMA against him. He is a master at striking. We said this about Wonder Boy for years. Normal strikers are not gonna beat him. And if you're just a high level normal striker, you're probably not gonna beat him because he neutralizes it. He neutralizes what you do offensively and he slows the fight down, and then he wins by picking you apart. They're big shots, they're significant strikes, but they're not punches and bunches. They're very coordinated, pointed attacks, and he got the job done here. Decision win over Jared Cannonier, and let's talk about what he may do next after this next fight, because next up was Jeff Neal and Carlos Prates. This was one you looked at as probably potentially, you know, show stealer, fight of the night, high level strikers. For those that don't like the grappling, this is probably the one you wanted to see the most, because there's not going to be much of that when it comes to Jeff Neal and Carlos Prates. And this was an unbelievable 1 round of action, and it was the first of 2 spinning elbow knockouts back to back, something I've never seen in MMA, not just in the UFC, in MMA, and we'll probably never see again, because there's only been 10 of them in the entirety of the UFC's history, and 2 happened on the same night. But this fight started out as Jeff Neal being the aggressor, trying to put it on Carlos Prates, trying to eliminate the difference in space, because Prates does have such a crazy reach, and he is able to use his hands, elbows, knees, kicks. He's got it all. I mean, the dude has Muay Thai tattooed across his chest, and he's the embodiment of it. He's such a good Muay Thai fighter. And as the first round kept going on, where Jeff Neal had success early, it wasn't enough to really stop what Carlos Prates wanted to do. It was enough to hold him off for a little bit. It was enough for us fans to go, oh, Jeff Neal, hold on, you know, wait a second. But it was just a matter of time, because Prates just held that high guard, took a couple of shots, reset, circle out, reset. Jeff Neal gets a couple of shots in, and then Carlos, boom, 1 big counter shot. And then all of a sudden that reset comes from Jeff Neal instead of Prates. All of a sudden Jeff Neal's not as aggressive trying to push and get to Prates. Instead, he's kind of standing there and waiting. And all of a sudden Prates is now walking forward, and Neal's the one covering up and looking for that counter shot, or looking to, you know, stifle a little bit of what Prates is doing, not so confident on the front foot. That happened so quickly. It happened, it felt like 2 or 3 exchanges into the fight where the momentum switched, just like that. And Prates now was the one on the front foot, and he was now commanding the pace and controlling the action and throwing everything in the kitchen sink at Jeff Neal. He was throwing the punches, and he's got such long limbs that he's just, you know, everything is so loopy and then straight down the middle, and it's not wild. It's not like a, and I don't mean this disrespectfully, it's not like a Michael Johnson, who's fast with his hands, but it gets way out here and then down the middle, but everything is somehow still so loopy, but compact. It's pop, boom, and it's just some spark on the end of his stuff, man. And out of nowhere, he'll throw a spinning wheel kick that, you know, he slapped at Jeff Neal, kind of slapped him with the foot, but it was just overwhelming. As a fan, you could tell that Carlos Prates was just starting to overwhelm Jeff Neal. Like, it was just the answers that Neal had early on by being aggressive, he was starting to quickly find out weren't gonna be answers. And every time he got hit with something, it was real impact. You could see like, whoa, okay, that's a little different than when I hit him. So here we go again. And then he would just get tagged with another one. And then Prates started to just, again, stoically just walk down Jeff Neal. And at the end of the round, he got so comfortable that he started throwing some of his wilder techniques. Like I said, the spinning back kick, and then he threw a step-in elbow, not a spinning one, but a step-in kind of downward elbow at Jeff Neal, Anderson Silva style. Not the upward one, but he kind of just like axe elbowed him. And off of that, he reset and then just spun, threw his elbow at Jeff Neal, and Neal tried to turn, I think, with it, and it sounded like Carlos Prates suited up for the freaking Chicago Cubs, because they were in Chi-City, and swung a baseball bat and hit Jeff Neal in the side of the head. That's what it sounded like. It must have been the point of his elbow raking right across the skull of Jeff Neal. And Jeff Neal, of course, because he just got hit with one of the nastier attacks I've ever seen, hits the ground right at the end of the first round. The buzzer goes, walk-off KO. That right there, ladies and gentlemen, is nasty. Carlos Prates is a life-loving, chain-smoking enigma. This guy is everything that you love about an old school fighter in a new school form, right? He brings this aura around him where he's like, I'm gonna smoke, I don't care. I'm not gonna sit here and act like I don't wanna smoke and party. I'm gonna smoke and party and still win the world title. That's what he said in his post-fight interview. And people love that because it reminds us of just a regular guy that happens to be very, very good at fighting. But what I was gonna say too is Michael Venom Page called out Prates for his next fight. And you know what? I don't think that'll happen, but sign me up if it does. I'm down with that. Venom Page, Carlos Prates, it's a tough matchup again because Michael Venom Page, he just neutralizes a lot of what you do, but I'd be there for it. And then we move to the co-main event. And here's where the W.A.D.E curse took its final form. I mean, in the main event, it for sure did as well. But man, I'm not gonna lie to y'all, when I was doing the Aaron Pico title run starts now and Aaron Pico was gonna win the belt, yeah, it was a little bit of bias for me. I mean, the kid is from Whittier, California. I remember watching as he became an adult, and I had heard about the kid for so long, just living out in Orange County. And then, yeah, I was a fan of him, and I wanted him to do well. I even met him one time, which was pretty cool. But yeah, this one was rough, because the one thing that I know about Aaron Pico is that he has every intangible that you want in a fighter. He is a hard worker, he is skilled, he is a genetic freak, he is a competitor, and he has a killer instinct. He has all of it. And he has the qualifications of a high-level guy, wrestled at a high level as a youngster, boxed at a high level as a youngster, brought them together in MMA, wanted to be an MMA fighter. You know, we talk about guys that can look like superstars in sparring and even sometimes in fighting, but just can't put it together consistently at the highest level. That is Aaron Pico. On paper, he should be a world champion right now. And yes, that's not how fighting works, because that's not how any sport works. On paper means nothing, but I'm just saying he has every qualification, every ability, every skill, everything. When it comes to the actual fight, he cannot put it together. And it's not just because it's a mental block or something like that. I'm sure that's part of it. Mentally, he has a set way of doing what he wants to do in the octagon, and it's so counterintuitive for what ends up happening to him. That's the mental part. But the physical part is he keeps making the same mistakes. Fight starts, Aaron Pico, very aggressive, puts it on Lerone Murphy, gets right in front of him, in his face, and he's boxing him. And he's hitting him with some big shots. He's going right hand, left hook. He's going left hook to the body. He's shoving Lerone Murphy up against the cage. And all of it looks good. All of it looks like Aaron Pico is man, this guy, he's fresh, he's ready to go, he's confident, he's putting it on Lerone Murphy. And to a degree, that's what was happening. But watch in between the big shots Aaron Pico's throwing, right? Because he's landing and he's hurting him too with some shots. Like the left hook to the body, Lerone Murphy's like, oh shit. He's hurting him with that, but he's also taking some big time shots in between. The camera angle doesn't really show it because it was at either like over Pico's left shoulder or behind him, but Lerone Murphy was hitting him with some stuff in between Aaron Pico's punches. And Aaron was crowding his work a little bit, getting a little overzealous, which again is something he's done all the way back in his Bellator days, getting a little overzealous, dropping those hands, being in boxing range, but not having the hands up, or throwing punches and the hands come down when I throw, so the return fire is there and his head stays on center line, because this is MMA. We're not boxing, so we can't get super out here. And Aaron would throw like a right hand left hook, and Murphy would hit him with an elbow. And you could see Aaron's body just kind of shocked for a second. And one of the things that worried me as a Pico fan is the fact that Aaron is a little bit chinny, and I hate to say it like that, but it's just, you've watched him get just one punch knocked out multiple times in his career, but it just, you could see when he puts himself in bad positions, he's vulnerable. He doesn't have a Marvin Vettori chin, he doesn't have a Canelo chin, nothing like that. If he gets hit, it hurts him badly. And that happened. And then Aaron tried to calm down and grapple, did a good job, I thought, of getting Lerone Murphy to the ground, having him stand back up, putting him down again, working again where I think Aaron Pico is best, in his grappling. And then they separated once again, and Pico got right back to the boxing, was ready to go. And then the moment came for our second spinning elbow of the night. Aaron got over his back foot, and I don't know if he was gonna try to shoot in on a takedown or if he was just caught in between, but every time he committed to coming forward and throwing punches, his hands would come down and his chin would jut out. And this has been something that's happened to Aaron Pico, again, all of his career. To be honest, there has not been a big fix for this for him. And I say of course, but I didn't expect this to happen, but of course, Lerone Murphy, a high-level guy that sees tendencies, that sees you committing to everything you do. There is no setup delivery. It's just DiGiorno on him, full-on delivery every single time. He's gonna look at that and use that tendency against you. So sure enough, Pico goes to commit fully again. Boom, Lerone Murphy spins, hits him with his elbow, and Aaron Pico hits the ground out cold, flat. Sad days here at the W.A.D.E concept, but it happens, you know what I mean? That's the game. And Lerone Murphy just earned himself a title shot. Then we go to the main event. The main event of the evening. The hype was real for this, man. In the arena, I can't imagine what it felt like. But at home, I was buzzing. I was nervous. I'm a fan of both fighters, but they're not like, I don't know, you know, when Conor McGregor fought, he was my favorite fighter. So it was just, there was a different level, but I felt that for this. Because the weight of the moment, you know, you could see this could be Khamzat's crowning moment or DDP turning back the boogeyman of the middleweight division. And man, I'm just gonna be honest and come right out and say it, this fight was not the way I thought it would go. It's just not that, I did not think this was gonna go that dominantly that one-sided for Khamzat Chimaev, because, I mean, clearly the idea for DDP and them was to gas Khamzat out, right? To try to drag him into the later part of the fight. And I know people are saying it was a casual take to say Khamzat early, DDP late. Well, turns out, yeah, I mean, that's the truth, because Khamzat dominated this thing. But the point that people were making when they said Khamzat early or DDP late was, I think they were, I'll just speak for myself, I expected DDP to be a little bit better with his grappling defense, make Khamzat work a little harder to maintain control, to maintain position, or to potentially, you know, go for submissions and in my scenario, fail and have DDP get back to his feet and start to put a striking clinic on. But none of that happened. This is the easiest fight to break down. Khamzat, every first 10 to 15 seconds of the round, either got to a single leg on DDP, worked his way up to a gut wrench and threw him on his back, or in some sort of scramble, got on top and held himself on top of DDP. And yes, he was throwing the little fucking shitty hammer fists, but held himself in a dominant position over and over and over, and DDP could do fuck all about it. And yes, from an entertainment standpoint, this was not the delivery you expected on the hype that was built between Khamzat and DDP, and especially when Khamzat is like, I'm gonna kill everybody, kill, smash, all that. But I can't sit here and just blame Khamzat, right? I could sit here and go, okay, well, I thought Khamzat would be more aggressive. I thought Khamzat would more efficiently look to finish the fight, because that's what he's done in the past. I haven't seen him just hold position on guys before. But I mean, the dude got to mount a crucifix like 4 different times in this fight, and DDP just had no answer. As much as I wasn't like thoroughly entertained by Khamzat's style, I don't know that I can blame just him. The other guy across the cage couldn't stop a takedown to save his life. Like, DDP looked lost in the takedown defense department. It was like the basic stuff, right? And I say that as, again, a guy that couldn't stop a takedown from Hernandez. But the basic stuff that you see other fighters do, like stuffing the head, getting an underhook, sprawling and kicking your feet back. Even that stuff, DDP just had no ability to do. And then once he was on the ground, I think that DDP did a good job of defending chokes, right? And that's Khamzat's go-to is, you know, he gets you to the ground, gets to the body lock, rear naked choke, and it's over. So I think DDP did good enough there to defend chokes. Khamzat just really not looking for much damage except for a couple of elbows here and there. So a lot of people are gonna call that boring, and I can't act like they're wrong. Like, people's opinions are their opinions. If you don't like that kind of fighting, that's the kind of fighting you don't like. But it was dominant, and it was one-sided, and it was exactly the way Khamzat Chimaev wants to win fights. Stay clean, don't get hit with anything. I don't think he got hit with more than a couple of significant strikes the entirety of the fight, and dominate in the way you know how. Control the fight with your skill set. And I said this on Twitter after the fight. Control the fight using your skill set, because for the majority of it, that's what Khamzat did. There were moments, and they were just that, moments for DDP, where he would land a one significant strike, get taken down. Or in the 4th or 5th round where Mark Goddard kept standing him up, which is controversial. Like, should Mark Goddard stand him up, especially in that 5th round where Khamzat is actually trying a little bit more? I don't know if Goddard should have stood him up. It's a weird situation, because in one respect, yeah, Khamzat's not doing much to damage DDP, and it's not a great visual aesthetic. And then the other, DDP is having zero success finding his own way back to his feet. The only way he gets back to his feet is if Mark Goddard lets him back. Right? There's no question that's the case. So it's like, what do you really do there? But in that 5th round, there were moments where DDP started to have success with his striking as they got reset back to the feet. And even in a scramble, you know, took Khamzat down. At one point had his back, looked like he was gonna try to go rear naked choke. Khamzat fought it off. Like, there were moments, but that was the most he had. And I said this on Twitter, but Khamzat, for all the people saying this was a boring fight, he's definitely changed his style of fighting since the Gilbert Burns fight. He took so many chances on the feet in that fight, and he paid for it. Big time. Like, Gilbert was tagging him with some heavy shots in that fight. He has not fought that same way since. And it's, you know, it's a good idea from him, because if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Why would you not go back and do what you're the best at? You're the best, one of the best, maybe the best grappler in the world when it comes to MMA grappling. I know Islam Makhachev is there, and, you know, we have guys like Muradov, and all those guys are the best in the world as well. But when you're talking about Khamzat, he might be a different level, man. He is nasty, but he doesn't take chances on the feet anymore unless you make him. You have to have good enough grappling to make him tired, which now he's with Sam Calavita, and I don't know if he's gonna get tired ever again working with that strength and conditioning coach, but you either have to have good enough grappling to stifle him, to stuff takedowns, or to make him do something else. Gilbert Burns had such good grappling. off his back. Good submission technique, good submission defense, a good guard off his back. Like Khamzat was having to use a lot of energy to get out of his guard. Whereas DDP, he took him down and immediately got to mount a crucifix like it was breathing. Didn't even have to think about it, you know? And I'm telling you, if you can't find someone like that at middleweight, then Khamzat's gonna hold the belt as long as he wants. Whether it's RDR, whether it's Fluffy Hernandez, you know, people are gonna say I'm crazy for this, but maybe even Bo Nickel, if he can get his shit together. Those are the guys that you look at middleweight and say, maybe they have a chance if they can, you know, Fluffy is more of a pace and output guy, but even then, your pace doesn't matter if you can't stop that guy from taking you down. RDR, maybe, but with the way he just did whatever he wanted to DDP on the grappling side, was so dominant and so one-sided that it's gonna be difficult to see anybody really stopping that, especially now that you saw him do it for 5 rounds. That was another big thing, was a gas tank. He did it for 5 rounds. Like, he may have been a little tired in the 5th round, but he did that for 5 rounds. And again, DDP did a good job of staving off a lot of the chokes and things like that. I don't know how many other guys are gonna be able to do that. How many guys are gonna be able to stave off the rear naked choke and every time they get taken down, have the will to get back to their feet? Because DDP never gave up, he never quit. And that was another big thing. I thought, you know, mentality-wise, DDP had the right mentality for it. It's just skills pay the bills at the world championship level. And I was wrong. Hand up, you got me. Khamzat completely dominated this thing. And like I said, people are gonna say it's boring. Was it the most entertaining fight? No, it wasn't. I'm with you there. But I don't know what the answer to that is. You know, you can't tell a guy to not do what he's best at, right? You can't tell Khamzat to not grapple. Sure, should he be more aggressive in some of those moments? Yeah, I think. Right? Look for the finish, go for it. Again, that opens up opportunities for DDP to get up, so you play that game, and that's the sport of MMA, guys. You know, you can't have everything you want at all times. This was not a performance I expected from either guy, not the outcome I expected, and not the way that we got to the outcome that I expected. This was completely unexpected, but I think it was because we all bought into the hype, we all bought into the aura around Khamzat Chimaev and DDP, and it just, you know, as an entertainment product, it did not deliver what we thought. And sometimes that's the hardest thing to do in combat sports. It's not the WWE. You can't predict what will happen. You can't script it. It's a sport, and it's a combat sport, so you just never know what's gonna happen. As far as what's next, like I said, I don't know who takes Khamzat next. DDP is probably gonna have to get into some sort of grappling defensive just boot camp, because I think if they ever were to do the rematch, if he had a little bit more grappling aptitude, like I said, the mentality was there, the gas tank was there, things could be a little different, but this was pure domination. I think Khamzat absorbed single-digit strikes again. I don't think I've ever seen anything like that in a championship fight from the challenger. But yeah, ends on a bit of an odd note. But hey, man, as far as a card itself, UFC 319 was a banger. I think it was awesome. Big shouts to you guys. I'm so sorry I can't do the live streams and stuff when I'm on the road. It's kind of tough, but we're still rocking the videos. This week we have some dope collabs coming up that I can't say too much about yet, but y'all stay tuned for that. And then, yeah, we're very close to Canelo Crawford. We're very close to Misfits 22. Who knows what I'm gonna get into in the future. Stay rocking with the channel, man. I know it's a different time right now, and I'm trying to get back into my MMA shit, so stick with me. And we'll get there. But as far as this card, UFC 319, what did you guys think? Let me know in the comments. And as far as what happens next for all the fighters, for the company, etc., I don't have those answers, but I guess we'll find out.